precedence to rely upon moving into the future.
Yep, I totally agree. And it looks like we are about ready to get started. So let's shoot things over to DDK and ZSX.
Thank you very much. Indeed, the actions kick off straight away, and we are back on Ruins of Sarnath, and we are waiting that first soul spawn, as are these teams. They're trying to get control of the rocket launcher area. It looks like we'll see the Americans OnTime being successful in doing so, but that by no means is a true indicator as to where this soul's actually going to go.
No, and I think looking at this game, the one thing we found from Defendants at the regionals is that they generally need a good start. They're very much of a snowball team that if they get ahead, they can get really ahead, but if they get behind, oh boy, it can go badly.
And look at this attack coming in from the Defenders. 3 players up with a heavy jump pad. Whaz was fortunately well positioned to handle that, but still the soul will be taken away. And actually, I thought maybe a toss would have happened, but finishing off the fight, going for the toss straight across to that lower point, and that is quite the denial there. Will it make its way onto the point? Looks like the capture will be there for the Defendants as now the pressure comes back in. But as we can see on the kill tracker there, this is a great shotgun shot, but it will still be all the red here in the kill tracker. It looks like the Defendants are defending quite well on this A point.
I like it. But yeah, this is good play, even though it was a take back from the Defendants. We see that OnTime are not pushing it. They're waiting to regroup, something Maestro didn't do before. And is it going to pay off? It might do.
You can see the pressure coming in here, and again, it's always very difficult on this point if you don't have the full setup to understand, okay, are they attacking from the stairs, from the LG side, or are they attacking from that teleporter from the tri-gun? Because that's how you get the steals, basically, generally speaking. And we'll see there's more emphasis put in here on these stairs. And if you have that full setup on the stairs, you put players there, you can actually deny spawns close to your obelisk.
Exactly, but the interesting thing is that OnTime chose point B, which, in my experience, it does have a few extra choke points, but at the same time it has far more access points and can be very difficult to defend. So yeah, they obviously have their own strategy about why they wanted to go here, and it's interesting to see what that is.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's more technical from a team play perspective to hold the upper point, the point B. And we will have the power up in the next 30 seconds here. So this is working out quite well. I'm getting some percentages here. A toss will come in, though, there for the Defendants. Can they get it all the way towards Connector? Looks like it will be tossed down to rail and collected by psygib. But quite the scuffle there, the scrap, as the soul will go back here in the hands of the Defendants. And this is key timing, because we have the power up coming very, very soon now.
And it is the battle suit in 10 seconds. So both teams are struggling to get set up, and it looks like the Defendant should take it relatively cleanly.
And that's the protection going towards psygib. Excellent dire orb steal there, and that's really critical here because the Defendants, they got that cap right before the power up. That means a lot of free percentage whilst both teams start to prioritize bodies towards the power up spawn. We can see psygib eventually able to ferry this soul back across to the B position, but the question is now again, as always, can they stabilize? And they're in a good position to do so.
They are, and the Defendants now need to be careful about not wasting too much time on pushing into a battle suit. Very, very close dire orb there, but just not enough.
Popping the invis there as the Defenders start to slow things down ever so slightly and coordinate themselves in. A 2-man attack there coming from Rockets, and it will be cleaned up quite effectively here. And you can see a stark difference between the team play and the coordination into that upper site attack as to what Liquid were doing, which was very effective.
That super bright orange lightning on come out, nice skin. But this time it looks like they might have just done enough to pressure off OnTime.
A lot of percent building right now for OnTime, doing a great job. Get another minute or so until that power-up's going to be coming into play. And we'll get this quick steal coming in from the Defendants. I think they got the Anarchy up the heavy jump pad up towards the back point. A lot of tricky business you can do with that. Sneaking people around is very important in Sacrifice. With all this chaos, and that cap will come in indeed for the Defendants as it is pressured back on from OnTime. They don't want to allow this to be captured right before the power-up spawns. That's always a big deal. So a lot of stairs pressure will come in here for Defenders. It's such a key position to hold because, again, once you have that stairs locked down as well, you deny spawns and you can also deny weapons being picked up into the attack from your opponents.
Exactly, and that's what happens when you're able to get such a clean defense that you can then just control the map to such a degree where your opponent is forced to make those very messy attacks and waste a lot of time. So it's looking good for Defenders at the moment, really, really good.
but how did the power go here again? Because you have that balance. How many people do you put trying to stop back caps, and how many do you put onto the power up itself? Looks like another power up going the way of OnTime. They've pretty much been able to come away with almost all the power ups, but it's Defendants with all the percentage on their obelisk. Good vantage point for that machine gun to rain down all the damage with the quad, as we will see an attempt made to ferry that assault back across here.
Lovely use of the quad, sticking in the back lines, not overcommitting, saving it for the majority of the time. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where Defendants were caught in two minds. It was a power-up, but they knew it was quad, and it was so close to hitting that 80-90% mark that they felt it was better just to defend the obelisk rather than overcommitting for the quad, and this time it was the wrong choice.
Yeah, this is absolutely perfect for OnTime. They were not able to be successful there with that power up. That's basically it for them. So a lifeline has been given back to them at the moment as they are looking to defend it, but they are losing out on these fights, and we'll get Steel running straight across very quickly through Connector onto that low point. A nice double kill with the plasma trail coming out there from Too Good, as that will make life a lot easier here, giving some breathing room to set up to get some reinforcements back into position and try to control this Connector area. Some teams like 2 players there, but 1 is very effective as well.
I think we see maybe a difference in the EU and NA playstyles coming out here, that OnTime obviously chose that point B, but in the American scene, obviously, you're coming up against more tactically oriented teams, whereas Defendants is just brute force. And defending that higher ground with brute force, it's a lot easier to take it, if you get what I mean, rather than the more tactical liquid where you can take off those choke points with a slower game style.
And the thing here as well is that you always have to think about the dynamic between if a quad's coming up per se, and you mentioned this in the last matches as well, quad is for some teams not all that valuable, so you have to say, okay, how much do we want to just get like 10 or 50% and then give away a quad and then get maybe 5% more as they try to attack in with it?
Exactly.
And then maybe kill them on the intercept. There's so many uncertainties if you get that quad. The protection is really the big deal here as we look to see who gets the next soul on the initial soul of the second round. It will be stolen away here by, I think it was Brick who got, oh no, it was actually whaz who picked that one up.
Yep, it was just slightly too early on the plasma trail, and really, really great timing from whaz. But on the quad question, the one problem, and I don't want to say problem, but the one issue that Defendants has is that they haven't selected a Nyx for this map. And that doesn't give you the opportunity just to use that one champion to sneak it away from the opposition with the Ghost Wall. You have to fully commit or just leave it alone. And so that's the big dilemma at the moment, that you can't just sneak it.
Right now, Defendants are looking like they're in pretty good stead to get something accomplished here. We'll see the soul stolen away momentarily here as Too Good runs the starting shotgun, which is incredibly strong just generally, but with a quad, of course, as well, and the fast attack speed becomes really nice and quite satisfying to use.
And we see there with the slash, is one of the, I want to say, the new tactics that I guess Claw's glorified with 2Z is the slash speed and starting weapon shotgun. So you could just zip in and deal an immense amount of damage on these maps with a very close combat. It's extremely effective and very, very annoying to play against.
Yeah, against those squishies who have much smaller hitboxes, it's honestly, it can feel like the only way to really deal with that sometimes. And we'll see that Defenders finally do get themselves that soul out. And, ooh, nice intercept there with the pummel there from whaz, able to take it straight back through onto the connector position, onto the obelisk, so quick. And that's quite the problem there for Defenders. They were gradually winning fights, and eventually they picked it up. But
very messy, but we see that perhaps already the OnTime had learned, and they've switched obelisks. Maybe on the first round they were pressured into going to the other one, but it does seem to be working a lot more effectively, and we can see that those choke points in the lower point are much, much easier to defend.
We'll get the cap here from Krysa with that Anarchy. He's a very annoying Anarchy to play against, very great fighting skills overall. And we'll see whether or not this can be a hold for Defendants, because the power-up's coming in about 30 seconds or so they'll have to start splitting their attention on that one, so they might not get too much in the way of percentage here. They have to worry about back-capping attempts as well from the opposing Anarchy. We'll see whether that's going to be the case, though. I
think that point on Krysa is very important. It's something we saw the difference in the last map between, say, Vu and Rafa, where Rafa and Krysa are far more fighting-orientated Anarchies and using their speed to great effect to defend and really pressure opponents, where I would say someone as Vu is much more of a runner. He doesn't get involved in as many fights, doesn't do as much damage. And if you can use that Anarchy to do the best of both, it's such a great asset, and it's something that's very pivotal to the way Defendants play.
Here it is, another power going the way of OnTime. Brick running that one straight into the obelisk, able to get the steal there, as he's got a bunch of teammates to help him across towards that A point, taking the tri-bolt route. A lot of coverage on this route, and you can see he can just jump straight onto that point, still brandishing and court damage, not for too much longer. It has expired, but will it be their defense that will expire? Will the offense be taken out here as the defenders start to keep the pressure on? A lot of players coming in from the connector position as well, which can be quite annoying.
It's very back and forth, and it's creating a very chaotic game at this point in time. There's no team can get set up. And I don't really know who that favors.
You can see that there is problems getting it across now, and although Deus is with full HP here on this saw lag, he wants to make sure he can get there fairly healthy, and just barely unable to make it across onto the point successfully. That's quite the issue. We'll see whether or not he'll be able to actually respawn here, get the pressure back on with that saw lag, but it was a brilliant interception, and sometimes you have to really consider how patient you need to be. Sometimes you can go quickly, but sometimes you really have to just take it slow.
Yeah, and Deus made the wrong choice. They're running into two guys with nail guns in a choke point. Is not the ideal choice of route. As a sort of
massive hitbox.
Yeah, exactly. You just get absolutely smashed. So wrong choice, wrong time, wrong place. This time, it looks like now OnTime have got settled. They have got 2 or 3, as I say that, we see Krysa coming in, just stealing it away.
And so it was a quick moment of quiet there for the OnTime defense. The defenders were starting to slow things down, and that's very important to notice. Obviously, a change of approach for them as they recognize the situation requires that slower pace, and they will be taken down. Again, unable to really get a lot of players behind the soul when they run it across, and that's to the effect of the good fighting abilities here from OnTime.
But they have stolen the Battlesuit away with that Nyx, who inevitably would have used the Ghost Walk, which is why it's such a powerful champion on all maps, because it gives you the opportunity to always have a chance at stealing the power-up. But on that earlier point, we see that it seems to me that OnTime do not position particularly well on the defense. They try and push out a little bit too much, overextend and dealing too much damage. So for my liking, particularly against Defendants, I think they just need to back off a little bit more and allow defenders to come to them, because they do push extremely hard. They have Abek and Deus, both of which want to pressure hard. And so you do need to try and sit back, otherwise you're making yourself vulnerable. And this is what we see again. This is why Defendants can quite easily, should I say, take the soul.
Yeah, you have to be really careful about those good engagements. You don't want to lose too much health, just as you said, and that's always a balancing act. It can be the thing that if it goes well, though, it will snowball you into a quick victory, but it is a risk. And we'll see the last attempts being made here by the defenders. No quads or protections really for them to think about. They have to just get a good attack going. It has to be one of these ones, or they are done. 96%, and then steal comes in from defenders, but can they finally get it across in a clean way? Yeah,
the slash is low. But the rest of the team are relatively healthy. So still a lifeline for Defendants here, as OnTime are trying a little bit too hard. They need to they've got lots and lots of time in the back. There's no need to push in one-on-one.
Krysa will be coming in with speed there to offer some assistance, and that's going to be very annoying, just using those rockets around the point. Anarchy is an amazing character for that, just with his movement options, can make it very challenging to hit him. And we'll see, though, that Steel will come in regardless. So OnTime in a pretty decent position to maybe finish this one off, as the intercept will come in by Krysa once again with that Anarchy, the very fast-moving Anarchy. The inject comes in as he tries to get the cap here, down to 1 HP. Oh, barely gets it with
and
one.
The quad is up in 3 seconds, but nobody's there from the Defendants, at least nobody with life. And that might cost them, as now they're all very low on the point.
Pressure back in here as we see Deus very weak on that point. The orange LG doing its work, doing its damage, as we see the Defendants holding onto the defense there and swapping over the quad. Oh, the soul is just there up on the point here. What's going to happen with that one? We've got a collection there and a toss into the connector position. And the Defendants looking like they're in a lot of trouble.
I don't know how that happened, but they did an exceptional good job of defending for a few seconds. A wild too good appeared from up a jump pad, but it's still not enough. Can they get on the point?
And there it is. The point has been sacrificed. It's OnTime with the second round victory. This would go to 3 rounds on Ruins of Sarnath. A close affair on the first map between these two teams. And again, as Zook mentioned on the desk, the first time that these two teams will have ever played one another.
We can see the difference there when OnTime swapped the obelisk. It was very chaotic, but it did allow them to get a little bit more stable, because it's just that bit easier to defend, particularly against the Defendants, as we said, who are extremely aggressive.
And so we're into the last round of Ruins of Sarnath here, and again, both teams have shown that they want to get that rocket launcher control. It's the high ground control around the Soul, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee you that Soul, and all the kills going towards Defendants, but actually Brick with a double kill off the Plasma Trail might be enough to swing things back in the hands here of OnTime as we wait to see where that Soul actually will end up. Tries to make its way up the heavy jump pad. Krysa there to cause problems, but it looks like it will be... No, it's still there. There we go, finally. It's actually the Defenders who win the fights there towards the upper point B, and they'll actually cap it.
And that's okay. I think the Defenders are happy with that. It's always nice to get that first percentage on the board. It gives you a little bit of a buffer for later on if you do need to take it back. So no matter where it goes, it's just best to cap it. And they have the quad on the Anarchy. As we said in the first game of the day, Anarchy is perhaps the best champion to get it on because it's extremely difficult to hit, able to get all over the map and do insane amounts of damage. Particularly when you're fully stacked.
And we can see that OnTime are basically trying to wait out the quad a little bit here, giving some respect, but that's an interesting choice of weapons. Not going for the rocket, still hits it though. Switching back to the rail, won't connect that one. The Soul has been tossed, no more percentage to be gathered just yet for the Defenders. They have to try to toss it back themselves here. On the intercept is finding itself towards connected that Soul at the moment. Collected here just momentarily by Brick, but there's able to drill him down with that lightning gun, and the Soul will make its way back onto the point, perhaps here for the Defendants, but no, it's down to Heavy now. It's all over the place as it tries to stabilize.
Yeah, Too Good said in that pre-match interview he likes to be the most annoying person on the map, and we saw that coming out there, running around with a nail gun. Nobody more annoying than that.
So satisfying connecting those nails.
Yeah.
So much damage, 20 damage a piece.
And we can see exceptional communication coming out there by the Defendants, communicating exactly where that Soul was traveling and being met by a defensive party of 2 or 3 right there.
Krysa, pretty strong at the moment. Let's see if he can get the Soul across it. Great rocket jump indeed. The movement skills coming into use as he tries to defend here from the back point, not able to really be all that successful as it's just utter chaos. He has teammates there to help out though. Dare's doing a good job, but Avik will eventually go down, and the back caps in process. And really, of course, what both teams are thinking about now is power-ups as well. It's power-ups and trying to go for an intercept. This is the most chaotic moment.
And finally, we have the defenders setting up, so will they get it cleanly? No, but they have it still, nonetheless, for 3 seconds.
Effortless with the grab there onto the quad. Will take himself down though. That is going to be dropped for the Anarchy. Let's see if whaz can get much done with this quad. You bigged up the quad on the Anarchy. How much can whaz really do? Can they get it across onto their point cleanly? There's got to be a clean cap.
It's been the most impressive part of OnTime's play for me is the way in which they've handled these power-ups. It's probably the defining feature that won them that second round, and it's got them right back into it with this round. Yeah, nice play, not overcommitting, just standing their ground and making sure they can clean up when defenders took it off them.
Yeah, some good rails from whaz, but look at this. This is what I was talking about. You need to get that clean cap, and it was not clean at all. We get defenders just capping it straight away. I don't think even any percentage was gathered there for OnTime as we get a double plasma trail there from Too Good, and that's so annoying, so frustrating now as defenders start to build their lead once more.
You see the power of the slash on these maps when you have corridors, because 2 players were trying to chase that Soul and just ran into the back of Too Good, who had left that plasma trail through the one corridor that you could go, and there was no choice except death.
Absolutely, it's looking really good here for defenders at the moment. Power-up is about 40-50 seconds away now, so we need to have one solid attack here. They have to really get a steal here. They've got to slow the approach here to victory for defendants before that power-up can spawn, to at least give them more opportunity. And this is a decent attack coming in now as OnTime are going to be making quite a few frags here, and that Soul will begin to be tossed across. And it does make its way onto the low point.
They don't need a miracle, but it's still a long road. And defenders are just swarming in. Look at this, all at once. Exceptional attack.
This is the similar problem as to what Mistro had. They could get a cap, they could get it across, but then they just could never hold it. And they might want to hold the Soul cap, just go for the power-up with it, and indeed I think they might do that. Yeah, holding the Soul, looking to get the whole team onto the power-up. The Soul will be dropped there, right above the rock, or run to the rocket launcher position, and it will be collected. whaz will have the power-up there, the protection, but again, defenders, they can play the time game.
So in your mind, in this position, if you can't get a clean cap, what do you want to do? Do you want to hold off, or how do you address that?
I think if the enemy team has the protection, you got to just try to waste as much time as possible. If you go for the cap, it's so easy for them to attack and get on it. But look at this, that nail gun's so damaging to the man with protection. whaz goes down, and we have that Soul running back across in the hands of defenders, looking for the victory here in round 3 of Runes of Sarnath.
Havoc doing so much damage on this Ranger. And this could be a good game if they cannot get the Soul right now.
And there's a good toss. And that's a really important point for all teams as well. You have to have a cognizance across every single player to make sure that you have someone pressuring the point, so that if no one's looking, you get the cap, you get the toss, and you waste more time. And look at this Soul just waiting there by the railgun, being intercepted by both teams. Where is it going to end up here? It's back in the hands of Havoc, back onto the upper point perhaps, but no, denied the Soul back on the ground. Krysa picks it up though, round to the back point, onto the cap, and that's going to be Defendants now racking up that percentage, almost at 100. It's so close. whaz with a double rail, looking to get more here as the Soul once again leaves the point. Absolute chaos.
It's chaos. But chaos suits the Defenders at this point in time. They've got 95%. They're the guys dealing more damage. All they need to do is get the Soul for one last time, and I think it will be a good game. And they're already set up defending the opposition Soul.
And the pressure on the OnTime team is really insane at this point, because they know that they can't make a single mistake. They can't allow this cap to happen. Obviously, this means now they have to get another good attack, but then the power-up spawning at the same time. There's so many variables tossed up into the air here, and who knows where the pieces will land in the end. As we have defenders coming in for the defense, they're going to ignore the power-up completely, as it will be collected here by OnTime.
Doesn't have time to get back though. No, good game. James Harding and crew takes the first game 2-1.
Absolutely, and I think it's one of the harder maps here for the defenders to play on as well, just because I feel like there's, if you take a Burial, if you take a Blood Covenant, there's so much more for them to work with from a let's say a skill perspective, and also, as you mentioned, from Too Good just being annoying, because on a map like this, it's harder for your Knicks to be really just playing around players, trying to essentially just disrupt the defense single-handedly, because the space is so much tighter.
I completely agree. This map and Lockbox, you would say, are the more tactical maps, the ones that the liquids and they're not too fast in the world will probably favor. But the Ruin, as you said, Covenant and Burial Chamber, where you can have that chaotic fight and you can be super annoying on a Knicks, that's going to suit this team that just want to get in your face or rush at you. So to see them be able to disrupt on time, it was quite pleasing to me. And I do feel that OnTime actually have a very similar playoff style to Defenders. They do rely a lot on their aim, and they just got pretty much out-bullied at the end of the day.
It is interesting too, from the perspective of talking about maps and so on, just due to the fact that I think Burial Chamber, we spoke to Des a little bit earlier as well. He said that it's hard to really understand exactly the map where they feel very confident, because they feel as though there's a bit of variance. But Burial Chamber is if they had to choose a map for a go-to, that might be the one. It can change, but that's the one that they would be thinking of, and it's for the reasons you just mentioned. Yeah,
I think that comment, as we just said, that they just don't know what they're good at. I think that just summarizes their playstyle. It's one of these things where if you can get on top of your opponent and you can bully them, you have the combat skill to see it out. You don't really worry about tactics, as Too Good said. Just play what you like, just do it. And it might sound like a joke, but I'm pretty sure that's their tactic.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, though, is that we can't count out a team like OnTime on those bigger maps as well. A team just comprised of a bunch of CTF players. We saw their individual skill there. There was a lot of moments when we had pretty much everybody able to connect a lot of rails in a row. And that's the kind of thing that you need to be looking for when you're playing those bigger maps, especially the Burial Chamber. If you have a team which is connecting a lot all at the same time, you can easily 100-0 basically any team. And you just need to have good players.
So as a Sacrifice semi-pro, since you're not here, what do OnTime need to change to get back into this series?
I think it was a very close game that they just had, and so I think that it's. I don't think that they need to do anything but just to play their comfortable game style that they've practiced. I think that's going to be good enough. I think they've got a good setup. It's again, as we move on to Burial, I think that's where we're going to. That I think could be a great map for them. And Burial's a weird map sometimes as well, because of the nature of the defense. Because they're so far away, it's much easier to snowball. And so if you get that first Soul, let's say you can get either point as well. They're both like heavily defensible with with their own sort of intricacies. But again, that's the lava point, as we would call it, where you can basically see all the way to rail, That's kind of
the
ridiculous.
very open back point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen in the past in the region of Not Too Fast favor that when they had all 4 with rails, and it's like, what the hell do I do now?
Yeah, if they're hitting rails, this is the thing. If you're up against a good team, it doesn't matter sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to hold your hands up and be like, you guys are hitting everything right now. We just can't get in.
Exactly.
And it's basically who can do that more consistently across the amount of rounds that you play that will be the victor. And
if you can defend that point where it takes a very well-organized attack to actually get in and get back out. The other point, as I say, is, as we discussed against the Maestro game, you can lock it down, but at the same time, if you've got someone like Defendants and you've got Avec rushing in, you've got a Nyx sneaking in, you have a Slash whipping in, and an Anarchy as well. Once they're in, it's just a free-for-all.
Yep.
And whoever does the most damage wins. So it can be, as you say, an extremely random map, but at the same time, that for me makes me lean a little bit more towards the Defendants. Even though they might be a ragtag band of misfits, they have some exceptional players in there.
And that is a really interesting thing with a lot of the teams, because some teams do like to rely more on the brute force, but there is, as you say, a really big element of timing your attacks properly with a Ranger Direorb and, most importantly, the Nyx Invis, because that's how you break those highly defensible positions. And if you look at both points, they both are very susceptible to that, because if you get the Nyx at the right timing with some teammates coming in to distract it from the front door or something similar, getting into an Invis, into that, up that jump pad, into the back point, it's really hard to deal with that. You really are isolated. You're creating a situation where Nyx is taking one guy out of the fight effectively. And so that can really create the right situation. And it's the same with the other point too. It has a lot of depth, that back point. It's kind of misleading how far back you can go.
100%,
so you can get really far back, and you can isolate players who might be railing at the back of that defense. So it'll be interesting to see how proficient both teams are at that.
So this is the first tournament on this new design patch, if you will, where we have the kind of set rotation on the power-ups. How do you think that's been affecting play and things like that?
Honestly, I think it's vastly superior, because not only, I mean, I feel like it gives you more skill in the game, because it removes some randomness, so it gives you a decision. Previously, you don't have a decision. You just sort of, I mean, sometimes you're just like, can we afford? Do we have time to go for the power-up in this situation? And in some spots, you might be like, yes, we have time for it, but if it's a quad, let's say, because if it's a quad, let's say, and you move out of your defense and there's a back cap at that point, then all of a sudden you're like, well, okay, we've got a quad, this is great, and then maybe you get railed from one side, and maybe you just die, because that can just happen.
At what cost, DDK?
And then you've given up the soul, and that might have been a spot. If you knew it was going to be quad, you would have stayed put. Or if it's a protection, that it completely changes how you want to play everything. So it really gives, I think it puts both teams on more of a level playing ground, and it comes down to better decision making and coordination.
So then, thinking longer into the tournament, would you then think that gives teams like Liquid more of an edge, that have that tactical advantage over some of these more slightly chaotic, disorganized teams that do favor the free-for-all brawl?
I definitely think it gives the team the edge which has the best communication.
Okay. Because
it's a very chaotic game mode, as we have witnessed, and so it's really important that if you make a call, everybody knows exactly what to do, because it's a bit more than just having a call. It's also having, because good communication is also what you've done in practice, like all the setup that you've done, like listing out, okay, what are all of our protocols? What do we do? It's sort of like if statements. If this is happening in the game, what do we go towards? And so you get the person who's the authority in the team. He makes the call, and everyone already knows how it all plans out. And so that's so important.
So we're into the game. First 10 seconds on an obelisk.
What a lovely obelisk it is.
It was beautiful, but I prefer this.
So most teams prefer to pick up the soul and toss it towards where we see Avec right there, but sometimes you do get that steal down into the lightning gun, and you can see that Krysa will make his way up to what we would call the lava point. I think a lot of teams call it lava point, but it is obelisk B, and we'll see how long they can hold on to it for. The side of the, is it OnTime? I believe it's...
They're just changing the teams now, so I believe it's OnTime that happens.
There we go. Well then, power-up has been collected by OnTime, and will be coming into suicide there, just swapping over the power-up, get it on a stronger player.
That was very confusing for a second. But, so we see that they have taken the defensive point right in that back chamber, should we call it?
Lava point, point B.
Lava point, yeah, I know it's point B, but I'm trying to find a more unique name for it. Lava point is cool. Where they can abuse that rail if they can get set up. And as we said previously, it does make it really hell on earth to try and get in there if you can get a solid defensive position.
Yeah, you can just see people coming from so far away. It's kind of nuts. And again, like pretty much every single obelisk point, there's a nail gun nearby, and nail gun's pretty amazing everywhere. Especially here, you can spam it from very long distances. There's all these long walkways, which is very annoying if there's nails in the way. But so we'll have an effort being made here by defenders to try to get in. But again, you really have to string a lot of rails together to get the pickoffs to really break open this point once a stabilized defense has happened. Otherwise, this is the exact situation we were talking about, where they were just getting the rails in. psygib hitting some wonderful shots. Great flick rail there coming in from psygib. Oh, Havoc responding though. Lovely Dyrov getting a telefrag there to make things a little bit more complicated.
Defendants have sacrificed the slash for Tuga's Nyx. What is your take on that decision?
I think Nyx here, they do have a Nyx.
Defendants have a Nyx, but it has slash.
Oh, right, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. Yes. It's interesting. I think it's very, of course, always very good on the power-ups. Generally speaking, I think that honestly both are really good here. I think it's a preference thing. Some teams have preferences per maps.
That's a really great carry by Krysa. We just saw him backing off until he got the communication from his team that it was safe to go, and that's what we call a clean cap.
Absolutely, so critically important if you can ever make it. It's that is the money right there.
But once again, we see OnTime doing great work to take the battle suit, the most important power up. And I do think that defenders need to think more about that. It does seem to be at the weakest point in their game currently.
Oh, good movement here from whaz. Double connection there on that pummel, and it's going to be all the way back home.
But they're already on 70% DDK. This is a long road. It's only 3 minutes in.
Yep, and this is a burial. I mean, there are so many practices we had. Like the last practice we had, it was we won 100-0 against defenders, then we lost 100-0 against defenders. It could be very much like that. But the problem is the defenders, they may have just failed on their only opportunity to actually be in this one, as we saw the instant recap. And the power-up is not too soon, so they have to make it an attack work. They've got to get some picks. There is all the pressure. They have to hit shots.
Yeah, and this is the problem, as we said before. When you get to such a stage in the game when you only have a 20-30% left to take the obelisk, you don't have time to set up. It has to be these ragtag skirmishes, and once that happens, you're almost free meat for the opposition unless you hit some absolutely mental shots, which is not happening.
Here is an attempt on a steal, and is making its way towards Mega, but it's very difficult here to get across. You can see a lot of exchanges, and it will go down Brick with the frag onto Deus, and that's going to be the soul carried all the way back down the Mega walkway onto the B obelisk, and it's just a mere 1% left. That means someone has to stand on it constantly here from defenders to prevent that 100%, to prevent that round win from going the way of OnTime, and that seems like it will not be preventable. And that was a great round from OnTime, but the defenders will know that this is the nature of burial.
Yeah, this is the way the map goes. If you're able to get one clean cap, take a solid defensive point. As you said, the map is so large. It takes such a long time to mobilize that it can just swing completely out of control before you even know it. And we're straight back in.
Absolutely. Who will get the first soul? Again, we see how incredibly important it is. Again, a lot of teams like to grab it and toss it up towards point A. There's that sort of towards the rail position, that big archway. So let's see if that will happen, or if we'll get more of a preference down into lightning gun once again. We'll see Deus grabbing that here for defenders, trying to take it through, but I think we might have a steal indeed. Krysa actually stealing it back here. A couple frags going the way of the defenders, and they will get the first cap. A beautiful response to losing the first round.
Yep, and they've this time selected point A, so relatively clean at the moment. Whether OnTime are just mobilizing or not, we will see. And they've stolen the quad.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting one as well, because you can opt to, of course, push out and take the quad. You know it's a quad coming, or you can actually choose to just try to sit on the most defensible positions here. And we'll see whaz just setting up. He's got full health. Great rail there coming from whaz. Such a critical one to hit, and that alleviates all pressure in the back. Creates a clear space to be had here for the Soul to run all the way across. Although a quick steal here, whaz unable to actually look in the right direction at the right time, and looks like everything's been stolen away from him.
Just moved out at the wrong moment. Yep. He needed to shepherd that carrier away, and just yeah, a little bit poor decision making coming out after a couple of real great shots.
And this is really cool now because you can see Tuka just sitting here. And generally, I feel like there's always stages to a defense. There is this first stage you want to set up in the room, get the high ground. Once things start to stabilize, once you start to get people with guns, I might have to hold that fort here due to the fact that we have a really fast steal from whaz. He's going to be able to just make his way back through onto the next position, trying to juke, trying to jive, trying to get that soul onto the obelisk, and he will be successful. As we can see, the attack is soon to follow from Defendants.
And as we were saying just then, the key to taking that point A is to have multiple people coming on the top ground and one person taking the obelisk below. So you're able to do damage to those guys capping above you, but also forcing them to come down to stop you from capping the point.
Recap does come in, is on time. Start to build their percentage here on the obelisk, and it's going to be an interesting situation because obviously last time OnTime were able to pick up this point. They were so successful at the resteal, so successful at holding it. There is a power up in about 30 seconds to worry about, and I believe it might be the protection coming up as well. So it's going to be a very pivotal moment. I think if Defendants can pick that up, they can possibly carry it forward towards the win. Indeed, the protection coming soon.
5 seconds.
The soul is now gone again. It's no longer on an obelisk. Oh, great steal there with the Nyx. Using that ghost walk to high proficiency. We'll have the soul there out and about.
I don't think that Defendants have got one power up yet across these rounds. And this,
I think you're right, actually.
It's costing them. This is the problem. And that's the power of the Nyx as we saw. It only took one person to push in with that ability and able to take it away on such a critical power up.
Excellent rail. And this is what we're talking about. You can see that these guys are CTF players, man. They've got movement, they've got aim, they understand how to move as a unit, and it's such a critical ability to have. I mean, there's always going to be two schools of thought, whether this is closer to TDM or CTF. I mean, it's one flag CTF essentially the sacrifice, but as we get all this chaos rather in middle, we'll see Defenders trying to ferry it back across, but whaz has something to say. He'll pick up that soul once again. A quick collection of the heavy armor will have him right back in a lovely situation, all healthy as he starts to run it back onto the point. And once again, OnTime seem to have no problem getting the intercepts, getting the steals.
Yeah, and that's a great point in that they've caused chaos for the Defenders. And this is why we see them only having 41% in spite of having the majority of the soul possession.
And whaz is playing really well, to be honest, connecting all the shotguns. Lovely to see as we get the defense coming in here from OnTime. The plasma trail around the point to try to deny anyone from pressuring it. And that's one of the reasons why Slash is so very good. Yep. I mentioned it again before. All it takes is someone to just stand on that point for long enough, but Slash completely denies that.
And the other great thing about Slash as a champion is that she doesn't need any weapons, because when you spawn with a shotgun, you can fly in and kill 2 or 3 people without anything to your name. And that in itself is just so exceptionally powerful.
Yeah, you're completely right. It can be devastating. Lazy damage at close range.
Chucking it out.
Yep.
Nice play.
Okay, it is, yeah.
Don't question me.
Thought maybe got stuck, but you are right, of course. And, oh, lovely movement there from whaz. That's quite the jump there, making his way back onto the cap, but it will be recapped here by Krysa, trying to take it out through rail, but in comes Effortless, tries to get some connections here. The soul will be still out and about, but who is going to be picking it up now? It looks like it's, well, everyone's dead.
It's just death.
It's just sitting there.
But again, OnTime got the quad, and if it wasn't for one absolutely perfectly placed rocket, we had a fully stacked Nyx running around with it. And it's something they need to look back on to really address how they approach that.
Yeah, it's a lot of chaos here for Defenders to try to handle, but it seems like OnTime still much more comfortable in said chaos. Oh, that's a bit awkward, isn't it?
That's classic. Too fat.
Yep, too fat indeed. And too good. Running it back across here with the Nyx. Oh, he will meet the an untimely demise there from the pummel of psygib. And an exchange of frags, and once again, the soul is just out there. But it's closer here once again to the lava point, to OnTime's obelisk B, as it will be picked up this cap. And
I think this time is where we're going to see a little bit of stability coming out, because Defendants are quite far away and the time is ticking up, so they need to begin pushing in.
Brick once again trying to lay that plasma trail. Oh, so satisfying getting the close range super shotgun. Nothing feels better than that.
Oh.
And we'll get a return from Too Good as well. I think the starting shotgun from him as we get a toss back towards Mega. Is the grab going to happen? They're trying to wait for that spawn, actually tossing it out the map here.
Oh,
and
that was really, really nice, actually. Throwing the stall out, using the die roll to get to the middle ground to try and pick it back up. Unfortunately, the die roll missed, though, but it was actually a really smart play.
Yeah. whaz, man, he's doing excellent work running
whaz
this solo all over the place.
Yeah,
Did
really,
he toss it into lava?
Okay, we got power up in 2 seconds. And we have a telefrag from psygib on Too Good.
Another power up for the OnTime squadron. That's Nick's protection is really annoying because her hitbox or her model is so hard to hit already that when she has the protection, it's just so awkward. And but Mega as well. Nick's psygib's not going to die.
No,
he just will not die.
And it might even be the power up that cost defenders the game. We'll have to see because it's such a crucial power up at a late stage in the game.
But right now they don't know where the soul is. So you can see that psygib's just sitting on the B obelisk and OnTime and defenders just waiting for the protection to run out.
Exactly that point. Very smart from them. Krysa recognizing there is absolutely no chance they're going to be able to hold that point and just hiding out. But unfortunately, it looks like they located it.
Yeah, really, really well played here by OnTime, to be honest, so far. They are proving to be quite a terrifying force coming out of North America. Oh, again, just nothing beats the shotgun. The close range
It is, as you say, satisfying to just hear that squish.
Orgasmic.
Oh, okay, I wouldn't go that far.
No?
Well, I wouldn't. I don't know about you.
Well, we got a cap going the way, or rather a soul run going the way of the defenders, finally getting some time, some quality time back in their own base. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Everything's dusty.
There is still a lot of time left. We've had 8 minutes, and we're still not that close to finding a victor somehow. Sorlag absolutely gets demolished by 3 rockets at a rail.
Daryl failed by Amic. He's hit some great ones though. And the obelisk is...
They have taken the top ground, which gives them a little bit of an opportunity to push in if they're around, but it does not seem like they're quite ready yet. Now, this is the power of what we see in this point A, where they're able to get set up in those choke points and really push away the offense. And this is why we're seeing it tick up, tick up, tick up. 7 seconds until quad, and I don't think that defense can commit for this.
Too Good is the one to do it though with the Knicks. Oh, he missed his shotgun, although there was an overwhelming number of players coming his way. I don't think he would have survived, but still.
The unfortunate thing from that was the only reason the defenders committed is because 3 of them died in their base and spawned right by the quad. Otherwise, that was a free quad for OnTime. Now
I see Soul being tossed across here as the quad is no longer in. That's a great telefrag there from Too Good. Picks up the kill onto Brick as well, although the return frags are made by the OnTime team. Where is this Soul going to finally end up here? Both teams have a lot of percent at the moment. This next cap could be the one. So we'll see, have to see where this actually ends up. Looks like it's going to be OnTime here, getting the cap onto the lava obelisk once again.
There's no defenders to be seen. So lost. I think that's GG.
Is that it?
Oh no, they've
got the intercept. And again, it's just trying to make its way back out here. Absolute chaos here, trying to go through rail. It's the fastest route back to the castle point, but it's often the most dangerous as well. And the cap comes back in from OnTime. 91% at the moment, and building as we get the rest of the defenders trying to pressure back in.
Yep, this is last chance to loot now, and there's only Krysa alive one-on-one, and he cannot take it down. And that is 2-0.
Excellent stuff there from them. What a dominant showing. That was really impressive. I mean, not only did they show... to be honest, what I feel they showed was excellent CTF skills in many senses, just because CTF is all about hitting the shots on the run. Yeah. And we saw so much good work there from the intercepts and so much kind of recapping, always doing an incredible amount of damage output onto the defenders when the defenders were basically getting their cap on, and then because they could never get anything done clean.
And we see why a lot of teams are quite fearful of burial grounds, because all it takes, and this was mainly in round 1, is one slip up. And then it can cost you 50–60%, and then it's almost no coming back unless you have an exceptionally well-placed attack that gives you a clean cap. And the second game, they were able to cause a lot of chaos, and it was a long and fun game, but it just wasn't enough to bring it to 1-1. So yeah, I mean, again, I completely agree with you. They hit all their shots, and that's what you need to do on that map.
It's a really interesting one. I think, OnTime really showing that they can be a very dangerous team here. And I think a lot of teams would probably say that in Sacrifice, it's difficult to predict where maps will go sometimes, just because of the nature of, I think there's so much to getting that first soul, getting that first cap, and then if you can survive the first 2 power-ups and remain and keep that first cap, which can sometimes happen, it's a really big deal. I think that one of the reasons why, or rather one of the things that has been changed which improves this situation is the fact that now there's no randomness on these power-ups and that you get the quad first. Because if you could get the protection first, it really gives a much higher chance that if that team that gets the first cap and holds it to that first protection basically runs away with the game quite convincingly. And so we see less of that, and I think that's a good change. I
think so as well. And as we said before, it increases the tactics in the game, I think, as we see more choices coming out, that you don't always have to overcommit for every single one because you can kind of predict the rotation. But even in that game, we saw a couple of times where the defendants either didn't do it effectively or didn't commit at all to a quad, and it ended up costing them. It's not a redundant power-up by any means. You can use it to great effect, and if you know your opponent's not going to commit, you can get it on the right person with the right stack and then really calculate a great attack.
And the question really now is, who's the better Blood Covenant team? That is
the real question.
Because it's an interesting map because it sort of has it can have like a bit of both. It can have a bit of a ruinsy feel to me and a bit of a burial feels like for me it's like a bit of a hybrid map just because you can be very defensible on both points. Both points have very distinctive setups, and I think both teams have their own specific likes and dislikes. Sure. I think when I was playing with Miasma, we originally found a lot of success towards the mega point, but then that bridge point, that's when we started to. We just had this setup that clicked because it depends on who likes to stand where, who's playing what champion, and all that sort of thing on your team, and that chemistry that you have surrounding those defenses, and the intrinsic understanding of who's doing what and how to sort of expand and contract. Yeah. Because that's another thing that, as a Quake player, you must understand over time is having the intuition of knowing how to push your advantages, but then also knowing like when to contract, when you need to stabilize. And
I think that's where we saw in the Ruins, where OnTime didn't find that limit. They were overextending on the defense, and that cost them. Yeah. In that game there, we saw them sitting back quite a lot on the defense, and it played into their benefits. And I agree on Blood Covenant, the mega point, it can be exceptionally well defended because you have that high ground, so anyone pushing in is going to get rained down upon. But on the flip side, if you can have some good attacks and pushing in a 4 and you overwhelm that high ground, then it's also very easy to take, if you know what I mean. So it can be, again, a chaotic map with little stability. Who that plays into, basing it off burial ground, I think I have to say OnTime. But
yeah, it's interesting because Too Good, for example, on this map, it's one of the more annoying maps with him on an X, but it's because it's interesting. I mean, it depends, which point. I think he can be a bit more annoying if it's actually if he's rather, hang on, how does this work? If he's attacking into low point, if his team has the mega point, then he's more annoying. And you have to know sort of the kind of routes to sort of basically nullify his play. And if you haven't played an Nyx like him, he does play a bit differently from pretty much every other Nyx, I think. Then you can be in trouble. But at the same time, his game does rely on him actually connecting a lot of his shots, which sounds kind of stupid. It's like, you've got to hit your shots, but if he's able to hit the high percentages that he normally does in those positions, you really feel it, and it's deeply impactful. If he doesn't, it's actually sort of, he takes a lot of risk keeping himself alive and not helping his teammates, which really pressures him to hit the shots.
But it makes their team click because they have basically 3 players that just love to push in and do a massive amount of damage. So if you have Too Good in the backlines weakening the enemy, it makes those pushes a lot more effective because Avec can go in knowing someone's been railed and just do a massive amount of damage and finish him off really, really quickly. And then he stays healthy, which makes the whole attack click. But moving back to Blood Covenant, I think one of the things that hasn't been discussed really at all is, in my opinion anyway, the positioning of the power-up makes it very contestable because it's in a great position for both teams to not push out from their points to make themselves very vulnerable. And therefore, I think it can play a really pivotal point in the map. And that, for me, again, makes me lean towards OnTime, seeing the way in which they've handled those power-ups. Because if they can take that well, then you can move into each point very, very quickly and capitalize on that.
Yeah, and it's again, I really can't say enough how much of improvement I think it is that it's a predictable power-up because there's
there's
so many spots where, for example, like, oh god, if it was a quad, we would have won because the difference really is the amount of time that can be bought with a protection, because you can't, it's so difficult to kill the protection.
Just can't do anything. It's like, all right, we'll just sit back, take the items, get some weapons, and yeah, just wait until it's done. So
yeah, it's like it can be a big reset button.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's really where the problem can come if let's say the other team, they only get 2 power-ups the entire game, but there was 2 protections at the right time. So it's really good that that change has been made. And
I think in another life, James could have been some sort of hair model.
I'm waiting for I was hoping that in the team intro we would have had like one of those like L'Oreal kind of like hair swipes.
That where he just stands in front of a fan and just it blows everywhere.
Yeah.
Super sexy.
Yeah.
I like Avek's hair as well.
Get his Marilyn Monroe game on. I was quite surprised when I saw Avek at the regionals because I haven't seen him in a while, and I saw his beard and like he's got his like kind of.
Is it just me, or does it remind you of like Che Guevara or something? Some sort of like guerrilla, like guerrilla warfare.
I have no idea, mate.
Do you even know who Che Guevara is?
No.
Oh, you're so uncultured.
I know. I mean, that's because I play video games all the time.
That's true.
Spend all my time playing video games.
Get outside into the wild.
And go to the gym every now and again. Not as much as you, though, Mr. 3 times a day. Who does 3 times a day? Why do you do that? I need to find out why.
Without doing the hard work, my friend.
Fair enough.
Like I said, it makes my aim better. That's why I do it. Just for Quake. It's all for Quake.
So do you really believe that?
I do believe that. I'm not going to theory craft.
So why aren't you the best aimer in the world then?
I am. What are you talking about?
Well, moving on. So okay, Dave or Des is playing Sorlag, and of course he's a guy that never really played CPM. He never really played. I mean, he played some Quake 2 and some Quake 1, way back in the day, but he didn't play. He never really played air control. Because
I spoke to him about this, and he's not happy, but he's saying the team needs it.
Yes.
It's a must-have pick. I will do it.
Perhaps we can go back into that, though, because we had Blood Covenant kicking off between the Defendants and OnTime. Both teams currently tied 1 map apiece in this best of 3. Let's see who's going to get the first soul here as it spawns at the bottom of the jump pad.
Oh, wow. This time we have... I think they've realized their mistake, because last map Defendants didn't have a slash. They sacrificed it for a Nyx, and this time, and I don't think they've done this before in practice, I'm not too sure, they've actually got both. They got the slash and the Nyx. So I definitely think they looked and were talking about it and said, the biggest problem we had is not having a slash.
And also losing too many power-ups on Ruins, for example.
Again, how is this possible?
Well, here's Krysa. Look at him go. Well, not for too long. He will eventually go down. Of course, Anarchy, not with the best health pool of all time. And whaz will pick it up. He's fairly stacked. And it does look as though OnTime are sitting on a good defense here as well. And this point is really nice to defend. I mean, I really feel like both points can feel really good to defend. If you get both all your players in the right positions with some weapons, even just if you have a guy who just has a nail gun, there's a couple good spots for a guy who only has a nail gun, for example, because of the way the choke points work. But this is one of those points.
Point A is absolute bitch to push into, to put it politely, because, as we said, it has that high ground. So there's no other way. You have to take the high ground, which means there's only real one entrance to go through.
And it looks like the cap will be made here by the Defendants. Too good at running that across here with the slash. Of course, would be probably quite well known for his Quake 4 performances. That was really as a 1v1 player where he got the most good performances in a top 8 player in the world. Very, very strong from him, but right now it's a strong start from OnTime with that 37% in the soul. Still trying to make its way across to either base. The interception, though, going the way of OnTime back onto the point for them.
Yeah, and ignore everything I said about trading in the Nyx. They do have a slash, but they don't have a Nyx. Their team names are wrong. That's my mistake.
Yeah, I was not sure what was.
I was looking at the team name. My bad.
It's all good. We got the throw coming in here from the Defenders, but it will be quickly tossed back onto the point here for the side of OnTime. And the next power-up is coming. It's going to be a protection. If OnTime pick up this protection and defend with it, that does not bode well. That could be a complete shutout here on the first round of Blood Covenant.
And yeah, this is the big thing. They have stolen the soul, but at what cost? They've traded it for the battle suit.
Yeah. Protection, come on. Gotta get you out of these Quake 3 habits. We'll get there.
I'll erase 20 years of my life.
And this is the thing now. Of course, they weren't able to be successful running the soul around, so it's just a straight up cap. They now have a defense with a protection, and that's it. That's why you want to try to be as hidden as possible. You have to take gambles as to where you hide, and it doesn't always go your way. Oh, good attempt there at the dire orb, kill onto the protection. Doesn't quite go Avic's way, but he will get the kill as the protection does expire.
And this is what we said right at the very start, that the defendants are definitely a snowball team. That if things are going their way and they're hitting their shots, they will do exceptionally well. But if they're not, this is what could happen. You know, you can just get absolutely steamrolled.
OnTime are playing really well, and it's a mix of course of team play, of understanding the flow of the game, having good calls on interceptions, and really just having great mechanical skill to back it up. And I think CTF know how, really. But as I say that, we will get a cap coming in from Krysa there on the Anarchy, running it quickly across, looking for the clean cap here. Good rockets. This really goes a long way. If you get these good connections on these rockets, it makes all the difference. And there they are.
So much damage,
just fade away.
Lines. That was incredible. That is one of the bonuses of this particular area, is that you can remain relatively unseen and just do massive amount of damage. If you have good positioning, that is.
And this could be the start of something for defenders. I mean, you just have to take the right spots. You also have to understand to some degree as to how your opponents are attacking. This is great from Break. Can he get a toss? Oh, so close to getting a throw there. Oh, and that's everything. That split second where his finger is trying to hit that Q button to get that toss in. That is the difference.
I'm sure he will tell you he did press it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure he will say that. Yeah.
And this is the quad. But this is the problem. It is a quad, but Defendants was just not there, and it could cost them again.
Oh, back onto OnTime there, but not for too long. So Deus will pick that quad damage up there for the side, getting quite weak though, and his hitbox does not help matters. Down to a dead. Very, very dead. Down to dead.
But most of the quad has run out now, so that's okay. And the soul is kind of in the middle of nowhere, but they just capped it.
Yeah, OnTime are doing a really good job here. They generally look quite confident. Again, it comes down to just being able to do enough damage as your opponents are making their way across the map that they can never get the clean cap, and that has been consistent for OnTime. Always able to get it back onto the point somehow.
This is good. They've taken out a couple. They come in from the high ground, but Avic not waiting for support, and this is the problem now. It's getting a little bit frantic. With 90%, you just have to get onto the point.
And here it is. The defense still is going quite well. 99% here for OnTime as the desperation plays are made in by the defendants, but not going to be their pride, their European pride that will be defended in this occasion as we get OnTime with the rounds. Really nicely done by OnTime. That's going to serve only to add to their confidence.
Really nice. And again, partly power-ups, but partly just, again, a poor start where they weren't able to effectively stop a clean cap and get in. And it cost them 50% or so. And that, at the end of the day, was the game.
And there's a few different facets, right? Or rather, ways you could break down sacrifice and ways you could sort of qualify a team to have or describe how good they are at the game. And it's your intercepts, it's your ability to do good intercepts, have good defenses once you stabilize, have good offenses once an enemy team is stabilized, and have good power-ups. And so far, I would say OnTime has been a little bit better on basically every count.
Yeah. They're playing the objective game better as a team. I think personally, the Defendants have better one-on-one skill individually, but they're not as fluid and as coordinated around the power-ups, around the souls, and in attacking the obelisk. And this is what we were saying. If they're hitting their initial shots, they can follow up, but that is a very individual-oriented playstyle. It requires everybody to hit their shots, and it doesn't really matter if you're going in singles or not. Whereas OnTime are doing everything in pairs and threes. That's the difference at this point in time. Once again, they've got the quad. So these objectives that are costing the Defendants.
Krysa making the recap there, taking down the quad, and making it safely back onto the point, though. I think he did get tagged there by a quick gauntlet strike.
He did.
There from whaz, but he will shake that one off, although the acid will be harder to shake off there as the quad is down, but it's basically expired at this point, so it doesn't really matter too much. And we will see the soul just being thrown all over the place, and OnTime again, a mere 22% made by defenders. And again, it's so critical. Oh, nice steal there from Krysa. He's going to toss it as well, trying to get it onto a teammate here, but in the madness, you will have the bodies in the right place. You will hit enough shots here to carry it back across to their respective point here for either team as we get more tosses towards the LG stairs. Absolute madness, and I think chaos and madness, these are going to be adjectives that we will be using quite frequently.
I think so, but to take it back to reality, the plus for the Defendants is they do have this A point. Clearly the favored point in Sacrifice for most of these professional teams. And they're doing well. They seem to have stabilized. They're all on relatively high health. We have a long time until the power-up, so now it's just about trying to get some weapons, making sure you're doing your damage.
Going pretty well here for the defense so far. The next power-up will be a protectionist spawning in the next 30-40 seconds, so that's the next thing to think about. But first, the interception, as they will not be able to be successful there. Good steal coming in from OnTime as they start to build themselves something in this one.
It is quad. They do have a soul. It looks like it should be capped. The objective now must be to pressure this quad. They can't let, once again, OnTime get onto it.
Ooh, whaz. Oh, he's been so good at these steals. Quickly makes his way out there, down onto the lower portion of the map, through the shotgun, and straight back into a cap. It was very brief that defenders picked up anything there, but still they have the lead. And of course, the quad damage here for OnTime has delayed an offensive effort from the defendants, who start to get some high ground going their way.
It's just a shame because as soon as they have that quad, even though they were both relatively low, it just makes your life more difficult to try and coordinate an attack because you know you're pushing into that.
I'm not sure about whaz just going straight to the bridge there. I think having your Anarchy defending on the low point there is really high impact.
I agree.
That's what 2Z do a lot. You'll see then they prefer that point, defending it as well.
And this is what we saw Rasha do as well. And when you have them on that point, they're more difficult to really push into. If you have them in the choke points on the bridge, they can take a lot of spam and it just really limits their effectiveness.
I think you really like your Sorlag up there on defending the high ground. You've got the Acid Spit, it's really effective, and the Anarchy plays the low ground so incredibly well. So we will see another attempt here from the... Oh, this is a bit scary, but running into every single nail. whaz. What a man, what a guy.
Balls of steel right there. It's okay, we've got 45 seconds until the power up. So now it's relatively even on percentage. For my liking, I think the defenders start taking it slightly slower, and that's a good thing. It means they're coordinating better now than they were before.
You get some covering fire there from the rail. You've got to be really careful sometimes. It depends on the team you're playing against, their style of play. If you're playing a team that really favors the rush down, you absolutely have to have at least 3 people on and around the point at all times. And you can't really afford to have someone extend as far out as psygib is. But if you get some momentum, you absolutely can. And we'll see the next power-up coming here. Des with a good rocket onto your whaz as the attempt is made for the pickup. And at the moment, the percentage is building. This is a must-win power-up. Oh, here comes the steal attempt. It is actually going to be OnTime that I believe pick it up onto the Anarchy as well, no less. This is a big problem.
This is a huge problem. This got stacked, it's got all weapons, and they have the point and the percentage. This is panic stations for the defendants.
whaz coming back in there, able to take down Too Good. A series of fantastic rockets. Too Good did steal the protection, but I don't think whaz gives a damn. And this is the scary thing. An Anarchy with a rocket launcher on this low ground is very strong if you play it correctly. And it will be a steal as whaz is just tied up in engagements, but will it make his way back across? So many resources there invested in taking down whaz, and the interception indeed will be successful here as OnTime try to get that soul back onto their point, but Brick unable to be successful. Krysa comes in.
This should be a cap now. Good. They have to stabilize. They must now stabilize and defend well. They have. It could be almost good game if they can complete this before the next power up.
They've bought themselves a lifeline indeed with this steal. A very important one.
Oh, on top of the point.
King of the castle, large and in charge. But not for too much longer. We've got a defense set up pretty effectively here by defenders. And you really need a couple men like guarding the high ground and getting the calls as well as to where people are coming in. Then you have a bit of sort of space to move players around when you get that couple seconds to adjust.
OnTime have managed to bully them all off the top ground, which makes their next attack particularly potent.
Nice
play,
LG coming in from Avec to take down the Soul Carrier, and he will pick that Soul straight back up and try to send it home now. Oh, the nails come in from whaz. He's been such a menace with the nail gun, and with Anarchy in general being so quick on those interceptions, but Too Good will be the one there with that slash of his, able to make the cap happen back again for Defendants. As the next power-up is soon to be, and that could be the power-up that could decide this series.
It is a quad, but if the Anarchy gets it with a full stack, then it could be, again, they could lose this point due to the fact that nobody's pushing in for this.
psygib with this quad, starting to cause problems in with the super machine gun here. Back on top of the obelisk there, doing great damage. The hit scan working out quite well, tossed up there towards Mega. That's beautiful there from psygib as he now rains down the covering fire. The quad will fall, but will Defenders be able to intercept? They are getting the frags at the moment. Looking for that soul, and there's the recap. How much time is left on it though? He will pick it up. It's like Effortless gets it again. Gets himself some frags and some damage here. This is, oh no, you hate to see that one. It happens so, or far too frequently that it just catches the side of a wall, and eventually they'll get it back up there to the high ground. But did they miss their window of opportunity? Looks like they didn't whaz on it. Yeah,
there was a really close attempt at an intercept. It just went over the head of, I think it was Avec on that top ground. But it does look like the defenders are coming out on top here, pressuring this point, which means they can cap it.
Yeah, they're doing a great job using their abilities really well to secure the frags here, so I don't know that OnTime can have enough to defend it. Looks like they are actually managing to hold on though.
Yeah, the ability's just coming off cooldown in time, which gives them another lifeline as the slash can secure that area, making it very difficult to try and push into. But they have now taken the soul, with all four of them on the run.
Des running it with the Sornak here, doing a remarkable effort, getting both frags on the enemy point. Des with a heroic display off the Sornak to actually give a lifeline into defense, and they're going to pick it up as well. Beautiful stuff when it all looks hopeless.
That was one mighty strong Blizzard, and the defenders here are just playing without power-ups. Like, if they were getting these power-ups, they would be winning these rounds cleanly.
It is a big problem. I do wonder what the stat is for the amount of power-ups they've actually taken compared to their opponents here, because it does seem a bit scarce, to be honest.
It's very scarce. They've been living off scraps, but at the end of the day, their natural fighting and brawling capability is keeping them in the game. And when they were able to get that one kind of 30-second minute period where they stabilized, it was just enough to push them over the line.
And here we go. We get the next soul, or the first soul of the third round. This round decides the winner of this series. Incredibly crucial, of course, every single match here. These teams playing for a chunk of that $1 million prize pool at the QuakeCon World Championships here at QuakeCon 2017. I don't know why I said 2013 for a second. Going back in time.
But it does look like the defenders now have their favorite point, and this is obviously the point they just won on, and a point, coincidentally, which OnTime won on. So statistics would suggest defenders have a good shot.
Yeah, got a great vantage point here to work that machine gun with the quad damage.
The quad damage for OnTime again is allowing them to get back into the game.
And can I just say that I love that in this game, quad damage is actually 4 times damage.
It makes sense.
It does indeed.
Makes logical sense.
Like Quake World, 4 times damage, all the time. As we see whaz trying to rain in set damage. Great stuff there with the railgun. Needs to connect another one though as he gets Too Good in his face with the nail gun, and that's a triple there from Too Good. Excellent work from him as now that allows a toss here coming in from Deus there, off the sword up onto the bridge position. And there is, it looks like Krysa's in position to grab that one.
Nice.
He's got OnTime hot on his heels though, but he's able to, with that movement speed, make his way across. But look at what he has to deal with on the point.
Yeah, he bumps into another Anarchy with a shotgun, but this time a not very friendly version.
Both teams with a decent amount of percentage at the moment on their respective obelisks, but it will be back onto the defenders' points for the time being.
And defenders just clearing up all of OnTime. Now defenders are all fully stacked, and OnTime have to respawn, pick up some weapons. This gives the defenders perfect opportunity to take positions, as we see here. Sorlag on the low ground, blocking that point with his very large stack and rockets, making it exceptionally difficult to push through the low ground, while the others clear up on the higher ground.
Too Good. Railing, sniping from the top of the A obelisk. 41% here. OnTime.
Yeah, it's ticking up quickly.
They're going for an attack here. They are able to breach the upper areas, but forcing Psygib to fall back onto the point as the pressure comes in. whaz being the man to create that situation to pull Psygib out of position, and just barely. They lost basically everyone. It's down to Effortless to try to do something with the soul. He can't get a toss here, and so it will die at the pillars, and it will be collected once again by the defendants.
Yeah, cleaning up at it. And now we have a quad in 2 seconds, 1 second. This time, the defenders take it cleanly. Quad on the defense, on an Anarchy. Best champion to have it on.
This could be, after all the rounds we've seen, this is shaping up to be the only round that really looks sort of convincing, and it is by the nature of getting those power-ups, getting those actual clean defenses, which we've seen so infrequently from the defenders. And great position here. Krysa's really impossible to kill from that position, able to do so much damage with the quad as well. Great rockets coming in. What the hell what can you even do in this position? There's nothing. Krysa offering in a fantastic defense there with the quad.
And this is why we were talking about that fighting base defense Anarchy is just incredibly hard to deal with, because what do you do when you can't hit them, particularly behind those gratings? The back has all weapons, has a quad. It is almost over for OnTime because they just couldn't get in. And the one power-up they do get on the defenders could just win them the game.
Absolutely, it's 3 kills there in a row there for the defendants. And they are looking to be setting up quite strong positionally, and they have a lot of weapons on pretty much everybody. And I mentioned this before, Deus is the only guy who only has a nail gun. And he's in a great position to be that guy. Now he's got a rocket as well.
We see OnTime taking their time. They know it's not over. They wanted to have one last final attack, and they're all dying.
99% to be 100. A clean way to finish things. Brilliant stuff there from the defenders. I mean, they had a really tough time against OnTime. They very well could have won it, but that is a very confident finish from the defenders, and they surely will be breathing quite the sigh of relief there for that.
The 3rd ranking EU team, probably, against the 2nd ranking NA team.
Yeah.
Pretty fair scrap. Probably closer than I thought it was going to be. I think Defendants